right? So basically we have unit 2, and unit 2, the part A, right, deals with the anti-anginal agents, right? Anti-anginal agents. And we have two important classes, right? The broad classes are the vasodilators and the calcium channel blocker. Although there are some other drug like the dipyridamole, it is a phosphodiesterase inhibitor, right? So we'll be discussing all these drug when we'll go into the this unit. And all these star mark drug I'll be discussing at the later. They have the synthetic route, so I'll be discussing them later, right? When I complete the unit 1 and unit 2, I'll be discussing synthesis of all the drug which are star marked in the unit 1 and the unit 2, right? So the important thing, most of you have heard about the cardiovascular diseases, right? So among them, one is the angina, right? And when I talk about the angina, angina is not a disease, right? This is not a disease, but rather it is a condition, right? So basically it's a severe chest pain around the heart, right? This is what we call the angina. So basically angina is a chest pain or the discomfort, right? Let me open the pointer. Ah. So basically it's a chest pain or the discomfort caused when your heart muscle doesn't get enough oxygen rich blood. So basically it is occurring when, see, basically the role of heart, basically when we talk about the role of heart, heart do what? Heart do the pumping of the blood, right? Right. So basically what we require the oxygen rich blood. It is coming from the lungs, right? So even the blood is actually purified in the, you know about the heart mechanism, right? So it is also purified in the heart itself, right? So now heart is an pumping organ, and what it require oxygen rich blood. So this oxygen rich blood is coming from the lungs, right? Now there could be some conditions where the oxygen supply basically to the blood is not met, right? What are these conditions? Basically like the conditions like the obesity, obstruction of these veins and arteries, right? Or the choking of the arteries by the cholesterol, high level of cholesterol, right? So all these factors actually contribute to the angina or the chest pain, right? So this is one of the important thing, right? So how it is feel, you might have heard about the several cases of the heart attack or the heart cardiovascular diseases, right? So it may feel like a pressure or squeezing in your chest, right? So you may experience a high pressure in your chest when there is a conditions of the angina, right? So the discomfort can also occur in your shoulder, arm, neck, jaw, or back, right? Why this is so? Why there is a discomfort? Because there is not enough oxygen in the blood, right? So that could lead to the discomfort of the shoulder, arm, neck, jaws, or the back, right? So this is the thing, right? So now I already told you about the factors which can contribute. So this usually happens because one or the more of the coronary arteries is narrowed or blocked, right? This condition is called the ischemia, right? So this is called, and the mia means the blood, this one, right? So the obstruction of the coronary arteries, right? So basically when there is a lack of oxygen that is coming to the heart in the blood basically, right? So that condition will lead to the angina, right? So now I have told that angina is not a disease, right? Angina is not a disease. The discomfort in the chest is not a disease. It can be by the several factors, right? Basically, but it is a symptom of an underlying heart problem, usually coronary heart diseases, right? So basically if you are experiencing some severe pain in the heart or something like that, or something breathlessness, so basically they are the part of the heart problem, right? So now when we talk about the angina, they are of two types. Majorly it is of two type, otherwise it is of four type. So the major is the reversible angina and the progressive angina, right? So reversible angina is what it is for it is a for a moment, it is for a moment and it will subside after some time. So basically the stable angina occurs with increased demand on the heart. So for example, if you are doing some exercises or you are just playing some football or some stamina where the stamina is used, that type of exercises or the sports, so basically you may feel a momentarily chest pain, right? Because there is an increased demand of oxygen, right? But after some time when you are in the relaxed condition, it will get subsided, right? But there are also condition of the progressive angina, right? So these are unstable angina which may be associated with the heart attack. So right, so there will be plaque in the arteries, right? So these plaque will do what? These plaque will obstruct the blood flow to the heart, and if the blood is not flowing properly to the heart, what will happen? The oxygen, see, basically your blood has what? Your blood has the hemoglobin, right? It carries what? It carries the oxygen, right? So if the blood is not coming properly to the heart, so the oxygen will not reach properly to the heart and the heart may stop functioning, and that condition is called as the heart attack, right? So these are the two things. So in this class what we'll be discussing what are the drugs, right, which are used to treat the angina, right? So the angina is also correlated with the high blood pressure, right? Everything is there, right? Even the hypertension is there. So we'll be discussing cumulatively all these drugs, right? Right, anti-anginal agents, right? So these are the things. So who all are at the risk for the angina, right, or for the chest pain, right? So first thing, unhealthy cholesterol level. If your cholesterol level are too high, right, so what will happen? The cholesterol will deposit in the arteries, leading to their obstruction, right? The second thing, high blood pressure. It's the second thing. Then third is the smoking, then diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome. If you have some thyroid problem or you are suffering from some metabolic syndrome, then there are also chances, right, that you are at a high risk of angina, right? Inactivity. So this is one of the major thing, inactivity, unhealthy diet, right? And the older age. And one of the important thing which is coming these days is the genetic, right? If someone is having a family history of heart disease, so there are the high chances that their offspring might experience the same, right? So this is the thing where these all are the things who are at the risk for the angina, right? So other than these risks, there are other things also that can also cause the chest pain, but not necessarily the angina, right? So for example, pulmonary embolism or the blockage in the lung artery. If there is a blockage in the lung artery, the oxygen will not reach inside the lungs, right? And the blood will not get enough of the oxygen to carry to the heart, right? So this is first of the thing, right? Then there is a aortic dissection. So during the surgery, basically the tearing of the major artery, right? If there is a major artery which actually carries the oxygenated blood to the lung, sorry, to the heart, right? And if there is some problem, if it is teared or something, there is a dysfunction, so it will not carry the oxygenated blood to the heart, and again there will be the chances of the chest pain, right? Either one can be the lung infection, right, because lung are the organs which actually provide the oxygen to the blood, right, by removing the carbon dioxide. So basically this is one of, again, one of the major thing, right? Then there is a narrowing of the heart aortic valve, either by the deposition of the cholesterol or by the deposition of high density lipoproteins, right? So this is one of the, again, thing. So if there is some heart muscle disease which is obstructing to carry the oxygenated blood, then again it could lead to the chest pain, right? And then there is a pericarditis, which is actually the inflammation of the heart, basically the all the tissues surrounding the heart. So basically if there is an inflammation, there are the high chances that the oxygenated blood will not reach the heart, and there could be some chest pain, right? Or there could be some panic attacks, right? So these are all the things which actually lead to the chest pain, but not necessarily to the angina, right? So these are the things. So one of the important things, see this figure. This figure explains everything. For example, we require the oxygen, right, in the heart, right? But what happens when there is a high demand of oxygen and there is a less supply, right? What will happen when there is a high demand? For example, if you are doing a running exercise or you are playing a football game, right? What will happen? After some time, you feel breathlessness. So what is that? That is a homeostasis mechanism by which the body is actually compensating, right? But the body has a homeostatic mechanism. The body compensate for the oxygen demand, right? But when there will be a problem with the arteries, right, so that oxygen demand will not be met, right? And what will happen? There will be the conditions of the chest pain or the angina. So basically it is all about the oxygen demand, right? So what is the oxygen demand required by the body, and what is the oxygen demand we are actually getting, right? So if the demand is very high and we are not able to supply it, or we are not able to supplement it properly with the enough of oxygen, there will be chest pain. And if it is unstable one, it could lead to the heart attack, right? So this is the thing. And all these drugs, for example, the vasodilators or the calcium channel blockers, will work by this mechanism. So I'll be just telling you how they actually dilate the veins or arteries. So I'll be just discussing about these drugs. So this is the basic funda, right? So basically there should be a homeostasis between the oxygen which is required by our heart and oxygen which is actually coming to the heart. So if it is in equilibrium, so there will be no symptoms of the angina. But if the demand of the oxygen is very high and the supply is very less, so you may basically feel the severe chest pain, like the conditions of the angina, right? So this is the thing. So basically, when we talk about the therapy of the angina, it is basically directed to minimize the anginal attacks, right? So how it do? By restoring the balance between the oxygen supply and the oxygen demand to the cardiac muscle or the dilating coronary vessels, right? So first thing, it will ensure the balance between the oxygen which is supplied and oxygen which is required by the heart, right? So there will be a balance between the supply and the demand, right? So this is the major thing how the therapy of angina works, right? So this is the thing. Now we'll move into the first category of the drug, that are the vasodilators. So now if you just go with the name dilator, dilator means to expand, constriction means to contract, right? So dilation means to expand. So basically the vasodilation refers to the widening of the arteries and the large blood vessels, right? For example, you can just consider about the water supply in your homes, right? For example, what we do, we basically have some pipes, right, which are actually connected to the taps, right? So the water is coming through that pipe, right? So you can consider your arteries and the veins are actually carrying the blood, right? They are actually as a pipe, right? So what will happen if there will be some obstruction in those pipes? What will happen? The water supply will not be able to reach to your house, right, or to the tap, right? That will happen. So now the same thing, if there is an obstruction in the arteries, the blood will not be able to reach to the heart, right? So if the blood is not coming to the heart, what will happen? Firstly, the heart muscles will not get the nutrition. The second thing, they will not get the oxygen, because the blood is only the thing which is supplying the oxygen, right? So what we can do, we can just expand the pipes or the arteries in this case, right? So if you are expanding the pipes or the arteries, what will happen? If you are expanding the pipe, the water supply will increase, and if there will be some obstruction, it will get removed, right? So this is the one thing, right? The second thing is the calcium channel blocker, which I'll be dealing with this, right? So the vasodilation refers to the widening of the arteries and the large blood vessels, right? So basically what it is doing, it is widening the arteries. For example, if someone is suffering from some cholesterol problem, or if we have some high density lipoproteins in the body which are accumulated in his arteries, so what we require the dilation of those arteries so that oxygen demand can be met, right? So these vasodilator actually do that thing, right? They do what? They actually expand the arteries so that the oxygen demand can be met, right? So this is the thing. So basically they allow the relaxation of the arteries and the major veins, right? So this is the thing. So now vasodilation also occur very naturally also. You might have experience. For example, if you are running, so what happened after? Firstly, you are getting some breathlessness, right? And in a few minutes, what you are getting, you are just feeling some normal thing. Your heart is beating fast, right? Your veins are just growing. If you just see your hand part and other thing, right? So what is happening? the oxygen demand is fulfilled, right? So that is a natural response of the body. But when the natural response do not go in its prescribed way, what happens? We need to take some anti-anginal agents, right? So now vasodilation occurs naturally in response to the low oxygen level or increase in the body temperature, right? So for example, in the hot and the humid areas, right, what happens? The veins or the arteries dilates or relaxes, right? But when you go into the cold temperature and other thing, what will happen? They will constrict, right? So this is the thing. It's the purpose is to increase blood flow and the oxygen delivery to the part of the body that need it most, right? So why there is an expansion and the constriction? To provide the blood, right, to all the major tissues and the organ which require the oxygen supply, right? This is the important thing, right? So vasodilation occurs when the smooth muscle located in the blood vessels relaxes, right? Relaxation can be due to the either removal of the contractile stimulus or the inhibition of the contractility. So basically calcium ions which actually provides the contraction. So if you are inhibiting the calcium channel, basically the calcium pumps, right? So what we are doing, we are removing the contractile stimulus, right? So our arteries will not be able to contract, and if they will not be contract, what will happen? There will be enough blood supply to provide the oxygen to the heart, right? So this is the first thing. The second thing, this relaxation in turn relies on removing the stimulus for contraction, which depend upon the intracellular calcium ion concentration. I have just dealt with this, and is tightly linked with the phosphorylation of the light chain of the contractile protein myosin. So I'll be discussing this protein myosin and this phosphorylation. So I'll be discussing when we'll be discussing the mechanism of action, right? So the vasodilation works mainly either by lowering the intracellular calcium concentration or by dephosphorylation, right, of ADP or ADP of myosin. Now here is the word dephosphorylation. Anyone? Anyone know what is the meaning of dephosphorylation? This is an organic reaction, right? So what do you understand by the word dephosphorylation?
Removal of phosphate group, sir.
Exactly, very good. So basically the removal of the phosphate group, right? So कहाँ से ये रिमूव हो सकता है phosphate group? हमने कैंसर में कुछ बातें की थी. We have talked about the ATPs, right? So we have also talked about some drugs. We have talked about the nitrogenous bases. So I have talked about when a molecule is it in a triphosphate form. जब भी कोई बायोलॉजिकल मॉलिक्यूल ट्राइफॉस्फेट फॉर्म में होता है, उस समय उसकी एनर्जी सबसे ज्यादा होती है, right? So this thing I have discussed in the anti-neoplastic slides, right? In the classes also, right? So basically in their case, what was happening? वहां पे phosphate group कहां से आ रहा था? By the action of the enzyme called the kinase, right? The kinase is an enzyme which actually provides the phosphate group, right? Always remember this. Kinase is an enzyme which actually provides the or transfer the phosphate group, right? And the enzyme which actually remove that phosphate groups or cause the dephosphorylation are called the phosphatase, right? This thing we have discussed in the anti-neoplastic agent class, right? So all those agents which are removing the phosphate group, they are called the phosphatase, and all those enzymes which are adding or transferring a phosphate group are called the kinase, right? Always remember this thing, the difference between the kinase and the phosphatase, right? So this is the thing. So when the dephosphorylation will happen, this dephosphorylation will do what? This will substitute the ATP with the ADP. So ADP is the adenosine triphosphate 3 phosphate, right? So it is highly rich in energy, right? So if there will be a dephosphorylation reaction, what it will do? It will convert this ATP either to the ADP or the AMP, adenosine diphosphate, or to the adenosine monophosphate, right? So now see, This is the enzyme. This is the enzyme myosin light chain phosphatase. Right. So myosin light chain phosphatase is doing what? See, this is the phosphatase. Right. Always remember the enzyme name. If you know about the phosphatase, what it will do? It will remove a phosphate group. Right. So dephosphorylation is done by the myosin light chain phosphatase and inhibition of calcium importers and antiporters that pump the calcium ion out of the intracellular compartment. So what is happening? This phosphatase is doing what? This is removing the phosphate group. So earlier when there was a phosphate group, they were doing what? They were actually involved in the modulation of the calcium pump, right? Basically the calcium was coming in the exchange of a sodium ion, right? So basically when there will be no energy, these calcium pump will not be able to function, right? And what will happen? These calcium channel will get blocked and the contractility or the contraction will be reduced, right? And if the contraction will be reduced, what will happen? The relaxation will be increased. So the arteries that are actually carrying the oxygen to the blood, sorry, to the heart, will expand or will get relaxed and more amount of blood will flow through them, right? So this is the thing what happens with the phosphorylation or the dephosphorylation, right? Right. So there are three main intracellular stimuli that can result in the vasodilation of the blood vessel. Right. So now the first thing is the CGMP mediated pathway, cyclic guanosine monophosphate. Right. It is stimulated through the protein kinase G. So basically nitric oxide is involved in this. So for example, you all might be knowing that nitric oxide is a gasotransmitter, right? This nitric oxide, carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide are the three gasotransmitter present in the human body, right? So basically nitric oxide do what? Nitric oxide actually expand the arteries, right? So it is mediated by the protein kinase G. The second one is the CAMP mediated, cyclic adenosine monophosphate mediated, right? So this is modulated by the protein kinase A and regulated by these are the secondary messengers, right? This nitric oxide, this prostacyclin, this adenosine are the secondary messengers. So the secondary messenger here is the prostacyclin, right? So the third one is the adenosine, right? So basically the adenosine is linked with the calcium channels, whereas the nitric oxide or the prostacyclin are linked with the NO release, nitric oxide release for the vasodilation, right? So we'll be discussing this thing, and this thing can come in GPAT exams also, right? Ki what are the three major intracellular stimulus? So they may give you the name. So these are the three major intracellular stimulus, or we can call them secondary messengers, which are actually responsible for the vasodilation, right? So this is the common thing. Right. So now in your syllabus, what we have the organic nitrates, right? So there are some organic molecules, or we call them organic nitrates. So what these molecules these molecules have the capacity to release the nitric oxide, right? When we are taking them, these molecules have the ability to release the nitric oxide into the blood. So if they will be releasing the nitric oxide into the blood, what will happen? The arteries will expand, right? So the arteries will expand, then what will happen? Then there will be an increased blood flow. And if there will be an increased blood flow, what will happen? The oxygen demand will be met by the heart, right? So these are the things. So I'll be just discussing about these things. So for example, there are the organic nitrates. So these are the ester of simple organic alcohol or the polyols. Polyols means many alcoholic groups, right, with the nitric acid. So basically this nitric acid will be metabolized to release the nitric oxide, NO, right? So what these organic nitrates will do? These will increase the amount of NO, nitric oxide, in the vascular smooth muscle cells, causing the vasodilation. So basically this NO will cause the vasodilation. So nitrate dilates the veins more than the arteries and decrease the preload, right? So basically what they are doing, they are improving the demand of oxygen, which is required by the heart, right? So now, one question that you can get in the GPAT is, what is the precursor of nitric oxide? In the natural condition, see, in the natural condition, L-arginine is the precursor for this nitric oxide. Nitric oxide. Nitric oxide synthase is the enzyme which actually catalyzes this reaction, right? So this NO is involved in the vasodilation. It have a cytoprotective role in the heart. It have some anti-inflammatory properties. Also, it have some anti-thrombotic activities, right? So NO, nitric oxide, that is a gasotransmitter, is very vital for our body system, right? So I'll be just discussing about the mechanism, right? So there are two things. Right? So the mechanism, how these organic nitrates works, right? So basically, first thing what will happen whenever we are taking the organic nitrates, they will do what? They will release the nitric oxide, right? They will do what? They will release the nitric oxide. So basically, NO activates. So when the nitric oxide has been released, what it will do? It will activate. It will activate the cytosolic guanylate cyclase GC. This is an enzyme. This is an enzyme required for the synthesis of the CGMP, cyclic guanosine monophosphate, right? This cyclic guanosine monophosphate is doing what? It is inducing the protein kinases, right? It is inducing the protein kinases, and this protein kinases blocks the calcium entry because they are providing the energy, right? So they will block this entry. So when there will be a high amount of NO, nitric oxide, this calcium entry will be blocked, right? This calcium entry will be blocked, and what will happen? These kinase block the calcium entry inside the cell and enhance the migration of calcium to the intracellular stores. So basically, this calcium will be deposited in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. These are the storage house of the calcium ion, right? Resulting in the vasodilation, right? So this is a very simple mechanism. So all the organic nitrate that will come, that will be converted to the nitric oxide. This nitric oxide will induce an enzyme called the cytosolic guanylate cyclase, and this enzyme is required for the synthesis of the CGMP, right? Cyclic guanosine monophosphate, and this monophosphate will then be converted into the triphosphate form. This is the protein kinase, and this protein kinase will do what? This will provide the energy to these pump, and they will close this pump when there will be high amount of nitric oxide in the cell. So these calcium channel will be blocked, right? And what will happen? There will be less contraction, right? And when there will be a less contraction, what will happen? Opposite of that thing, there will be high amount of relaxation, right? So this is the thing. So these are the things. Drug releases the active nitric oxide to the activate the guanylate cyclase. This activation increases the level of CGMP. See what it is doing. The drug are actually releasing the nitric oxide first. All the organic nitrates, right? All the organic nitrates are doing what? They are getting metabolized in the body to release the nitric oxide, right? And nitric oxide is doing what? It is activating this enzyme, guanylate cyclase, right? And this guanylate cyclase activation allows the level of CGMP to rise, right? And when the level of the CGMP are rising, what will happen? It will induce or it will activate the protein kinase, right? Which will actually block the calcium channel, right? And if they are blocking the calcium channel, what will happen? They will reduce the constriction of the muscle fibers or the arteries, right? Leading to the vasodilation, right? So this is the general mechanism of the organic nitrate. So tomorrow what we'll do, we'll be discussing about the drugs which are in your syllabus belonging to the category of the organic nitrates, right? So this is the thing, right? So if anyone is having any doubts or any queries in this, they may ask. So any doubts, queries?
So
Yes, Tushar.
सर नहीं है आज.
Okay. So what I'll do, I'll just go with the recap, right? What we have done, right? So I have started with the second unit today, and we were discussing the anti-anginal agents, right? So anti-anginal agent do what? Basically, what is angina first, right? So angina is the severe chest pain, right? The angina is the severe chest pain. Now the angina can be of two types, right? One is the stable and the second is the unstable. The stable angina means that it will be when there will be high oxygen demand, it will be met by the body in some amount, some minutes or few minutes, right? For example, that was the case when we are doing some exercises or we were playing football or we were doing anything which required the high stamina, right? So that we require the oxygen, right, for that thing. So what will happen? Our body will compensate for that and the body will recover from that chest pain, right? But there will be some conditions called the unstable angina, right? And when there will be the condition of the unstable angina, which are basically due to the high obesity, right, inactivity, high cholesterol level, right? What it will do, it will form some plaque in the blood vessels, and when it will form the plaques in the blood vessel, what will happen? The blood supply will not go to the heart, right? And if the blood supply is not going to the heart, what will happen? There will be less nutrition to the heart cells, plus there will be the less supply of oxygen, right? And this condition, the less supply of oxygen to the heart, is called the ischemia, which is basically seen by the severe chest pain, and this severe chest pain could lead to the heart attacks, right? So this is the thing which we have discussed. The second thing which we have discussed were the two categories of drugs that are there in your syllabus, right? The first category is the what we call the vasodilators, right? The second category is the calcium channel blockers, right? So we have just started about the vasodilators, right? So I have told you about what are the vasodilators. So vasodilators are basically the drugs which will expand your arteries and the veins to supply the increased demand of oxygen to the heart, right? So how they are doing? There are actually three mechanisms which actually there are actually the three secondary messengers, right, which actually causes the vasodilation, right? The first one is the nitric oxide, the second one was the prostacyclin, and the third was the adenosine, right? So the organic nitrates, they were doing? These drugs were actually releasing the NO, nitric oxide, to the blood. And what the NO is doing? What the NO was doing? NO was activating the enzyme called the guanylate cyclase, right? GC, right? What that was doing? That was actually increasing the level of CGMP, right? Cyclic guanosine monophosphate. And that cyclic guanosine monophosphate was doing what? It was increasing the protein kinase level. So that protein kinase was doing what? That is a high energy. So that was closing the calcium pump, right? So when that calcium pump was closing, what was happening? The muscles were not getting contraction, the myosin, right? That will not be able to get the contraction. And when there will be no contraction, what will happen? There will be the relaxation, right? And when there will be the relaxation, what will happen? There will be the high demand, high flow of blood, and which will actually carries the nutrition and the oxygen to the heart or the tissues which require the oxygen, right? So this is the thing what we have discussed, and in the tomorrow class what we'll be doing, we'll be discussing the drugs, right? The first category of drug, that is the vasodilators, right? So this is the thing. So if someone is having any doubt from the first unit or this today's class, they may ask, right? So if someone has not visited the Moodle, they can just go to the Moodle for the unit 1 lecture notes and everything, right? So that is for the today. So thanks for the joining. Thanks for joining. Huh? Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.